this is just to open up a little study here. And that is, are the chakras opening out or are the chakras opening up? And I wanted to point out that this is kind of an obvious question that we should ask if we are approaching the chakras from the standpoint that they are real things. Because you would like to know, for example, if you're talking about the organ systems, you'd like to know that the lungs are positioned like this. Well, what about the chakras? Do they open facing forward or do they open facing up? So let me show you here a couple of images to show you the confusion here. And I'll tell you why I'm getting into all of this. All right, so this is how Western contemporary chakra system first was introduced. And in this case, you saw this in class number 1. So this is from Charles Leadbeater, who published this book in something like 1918 or something like that. But this is how Western society first heard about the chakras mostly. But then we also see that there's lots of depictions where the chakras appear to be lotuses facing outward, all right? And then if we look at it in more detail, it actually becomes more complicated. And if we look at this image, we see that there's an optical illusion that is happening. And this optical illusion is that the chakras are lotuses that are facing out, but at the same time, they're lotuses that are seats where the deities are seated on a flat lotus. So this is an optical illusion. And here we see, all right, well, the lotus is facing out, but the lotus is also a flat seat. And here it is again. So what does that mean, that the lotuses are facing out and they're flat seat? How do we reconcile this optic illusion? And first of all, it doesn't matter because that's not what we're using the chakras for. As I pointed out many times, when people say, how many chakras are there? I say, well, how many do we need? And that's exactly what this type of question is about. Now, here's a very interesting teaching, which is why I raised this question. And this teaching is from some of the root sources. And it completely changes our concept of the chakras if we think about it this way. And we've already been introduced to it. I've already shared with you many examples of this. And that is, the chakras are not in the body, but the body is in the chakras. That's a completely different way of looking at what chakras are. So we've been operating on this assumption that, oh, the chakras here, 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 and here. But there's this other philosophy that sounds very similar to quantum physics now, which is that chakras are actually holographic in nature and fractal, and that they're not in a particular region. They can be associated with particular organs and physiological functions and so forth, but you will remember a very clear example of this from last week. And that was that when we started contemplating solar energy, we discovered that the mandala of Manipura, the city of radiant luminous gems, is all around us. It's in the sun, and it is happening in every creature. Every creature has sunlight in it, and it's happening inside the photosynthesis of the plants, and it's happening in the warmth of the body system, and it's combusting in every cell. And that is represented symbolically by this chakra in this particular part of the body. But the chakra is actually a symbolic representation of a universal hologram of solar energy that's inside everything. And so therefore we can say, okay, third chakra on one level is inside the body at the umbilical region associated with digestive fire. But on another level, the third chakra is all around us and we are inside it. We are inside this flow of solar energy. That's how we can understand that particular teaching, that the chakras are not in the body, but we are, the body is in the chakras. And here's a nice thing for today, and that is there's a saying that when the heart chakra opens, all the other chakras fall into it. Therefore, we have again this challenge to our original premise that the chakras are fixed things in the body. So the heart chakra then basically represents a kind of internal space. And when we enter into that internal space, that all the other chakras don't matter. So one more teaching here, and this is going back. Now we're going to do I'm going to touch on another chakra that I mentioned last week, and we're going to look at this because this is a transitional chakra between the third chakra and the fourth chakra. I mentioned this, and this is the chakra that's called Surya. And the Surya chakra, as I mentioned, is a secondary chakra to the third chakra. Sometimes it's placed behind the third chakra. Sometimes it's placed between the third chakra and the fourth chakra, but that doesn't really matter. What matters is that that chakra is called Surya, which means the deity of sun. It's called sun, basically. It's a sun chakra. But that's not the only thing it's called. The other thing that it is called, it's called the Hridaya chakra. So there is a chakra, and of course, this is all in the imaginal realm, but there is a chakra that is described as being made of sunlight, but also being associated with the heart. So here, I want to give one more proverb, a teaching from the Vedas, and then we're going to do a little practice on the Surya chakra, contemplation of Surya chakra. There's a beautiful saying in the Vedas. Life is the evolution of light into consciousness. Life is the evolution of light into consciousness. And that is exactly what we meditated on last week. When we were closing eyes and we could see sunlight through the eyelids, and then we could imagine it coming into the atmosphere, into the plants, being photosynthesized into food, foundation of the food chain, and then it comes into us, and then it's being combusted, and we feel the warmth of the body. And not only do we feel the warmth of the body, but we are also cognizant of the warmth of the body, which means that our consciousness is also a manifestation of sunlight. And the more present we are, the brighter, the luminous our presence is. And therefore, our mind is also tejas, luminosity. And therefore, sunlight is this entire flow. And the conclusion of that, as we came to understand, is that we are able to perceive that which is creating us. In other words, we can see God and we can feel God. And the sun is there, and it is deified in all the world's religions and lineages. And the sunlight is coming in and it's combusting, and we have this warmth that is coming off the body, and we have the ability to perceive it. And not only do we have the ability to perceive it, we have the ability to comprehend what it is and to be able to fully recognize that we are the end result of that flow of solar energy. And that's what that teaching is. Life is the evolution of light into consciousness. So this is something that's very important to consider. And now we will look at this Surya chakra just for a minute. And the reason I wanted to introduce the Surya chakra is because it's a transitional topic where we go from the Manipura, the city of radiant gems, which represents sunlight, into a very specific description of a center in the body that is assimilating sunlight and using sunlight. And that is what the Surya chakra is said to be. And it is also called Hridaya, which means heart. And so it's very interesting that between the solar plexus, the third chakra, and the fourth chakra is a center that is called both sun and heart. And in that center that is called both sun and heart, there is symbology, of course. And this is what I wanted to share with you. There is a region in the body between the heart and the navel that is said to be the location of a wish-fulfilling tree. And that tells us that this region of the body has been recognized as being very directly related to the power to manifest what we want. Let me show you some images of wish-fulfilling trees. This is a big part of mythology, and it's in lots of different cultures. So here's a wish-fulfilling tree. And of course, in Hindu mythology, well, it was something that the gods enjoyed, whereas the lower beings were fighting over it. But the gods enjoyed this wish-fulfilling tree because it gave them everything they wanted. A wish-fulfilling tree gives us everything we want. And we also find this concept is pretty much all over Asia. And I have seen a wish-fulfilling tree. It wasn't quite as dramatic as that. This is a wish-fulfilling tree, and we find this in many places in India. And I have seen some images that are not mine to post, but I have seen some of trees that are just unbelievably huge that have been considered wish-fulfilling trees for centuries and centuries. This is just a small local wish-fulfilling tree in some neighborhood, and the coconuts that are tied up there represent people's wishes. And so people fill their coconut shell with wishes and tie it to the wish-fulfilling tree. That's how that works. All right, now let's consider this. If we take all these threads of information, what this tells us is that inside of us, there is this region of the body that is very closely related to manifesting our desires, to manifestation. Now, we hear a lot about manifestation practices, but what's important here is that this is actually telling us that our power of manifestation is biological.